Hello everybody, welcome back to WhizDum Wednesday. This is a weekly podcast where I basically talk about things in life that you may not understand or things that you may need to change or better decisions to make. So my goal here is to make you a whiz out of making wise decisions and to steam them up to make them even better. So we actually don't have any updates really that I know of to talk about today. I will say I'm working more on my WhizDum Wednesday logo and it's getting out to be even cooler, alright? It's really cool. I can't wait to show it to you guys sometimes. It may not even be a logo, but it'll be a shirt design for sure. So that was my only update. Now, I'd like to talk about last week's WhizDum Wednesday. Last week's WhizDum Wednesday was a pretty cool one. Literally, I felt in my heart that it was a great one. So please, if you missed it, go check it out. It's called WhizDum Wednesday Wither. It's basically where I talk about things getting old. Alright, whether it's a thing that we do, like are we doing something from high school we shouldn't be, alright? Are we doing something that's really getting old and we should better ourselves and become a better person? Alright, is there somebody in your life who may be getting old, for example, and you need to spend some time with them? A lot of good stuff is in that. So I highly recommend it. It's a very good listen. And let's get on with the next segment with Widow. Alright, first of all, before I start this video, or this segment here, I want to express here, this is a Christian heavy subject thing, alright? If you aren't comfortable with that, please, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to, alright? This is completely free. I just feel like I want to talk to our homie Ethan again. So for those of you who don't know, this is going to be another Ethan episode where I got Ethan on and we're talking about Widow. It's basically about, well, I'll let the segment explain itself, but it is very, very Bible and Christian heavy. So, but not only is it that though, there's some core growth inside of it as well. So if you're not a person who's affected or very uncomfortable with Christian stuff, then please give this a listen. Or if you're interested in hearing some stuff about Christianity or the Bible, anything like that, please listen. All right, there's some character growing things in this. Not only that, but a relation to, like, you know, how things may be seeming like the end of the world, for example. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that, you know. I would highly recommend you listen to this, but there's no pressure at all. But I would love for you to listen to it and give me some feedback if possible. And give Ethan some feedback as well, because he loves to hear feedback as well. So, and I'll pass it on to him if it said anything near Twitch or anything like that. I will pass on that information to him. But anyway, let's get into the segment. I hope you all enjoy this. Hello, everybody. Welcome to WhizDum Wednesday. We're hearing another segment with Ethan here because he's an awesome homie and wanted to do another one with us.
What a guy.
Yeah, dude. I know, right? He's pretty rad, dude. I ain't gonna lie. So, do you have anything to say, like, from the last time or from that you feel like you need to say? A little small introduction?
Yeah, you know, people who don't know me, Ethan Willingham is my name, 20 years old, just trying to glean in from God everything I can, you know. Nothing's new with me, man. You know, I'm just trying to walk in the Lord every single day that I can. And it's not always easy, but, you know, we're here to glean wisdom. That's what this channel's about. So, all that are listening, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you can glean something from it, man.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, man, dude.
What?
For any of you who don't know, too, Ethan's like one of the other wisest people I've met, especially at the age of 20, so he's pretty cool.
Wow,
he was taught from Jewish rabbis, all right, so that's pretty cool. All right, listen, he showed me Beth Tikkun as well. I recommend that as well as he does as well, because it's a pretty good podcast, so very
Beth
wise
Tikkun,
stuff.
Messianic congregation.
Yeah, man.
Solid man.
All right, so the main thing I want to talk about is Widow. It was kind of an idea we talked about, and it was like, you know, all right, what do we kind of express? Because, you know, a lot of things are happening, all right, within the world. And so some people are going to be thinking, okay, what I said was an understatement. We'll say that. Yeah. So within recent activities, I guess, and within recent times going on, a lot of people are, you know, seeing end of the world kind of the stuff, rapture kind of stuff, earthquake stuff, for example, and everyone's like, you know, there's people probably freaking out. There's people thinking, oh, it's the end of the world. You know, people want 2020 to be over with, kind of the thing, because 2020 just somehow keeps getting worse and worse in some points. Well, I don't think it's gotten worse and worse, but there's still like, there's some bad stuff that's happened, like the earthquakes, for example, and so everybody thinks, oh snap, earthquakes going off at the same time. It's a biblical rapture thing going on.
Yeah.
And you know, I kind of want to talk about the reason it's called Widow is because of the fact of, all right, well, what if, let's say the rapture happens soon, all right, and poof goes all Christians, you know what I mean? Like everybody who's like with it, who has, you know, Jesus in their heart, all the stuff that, you know, when they're with God and Jesus, the rapture, and it happens, everyone's gone. And it's like, all right, well, what do you do now since everybody's gone? You know, how are you going to fix yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah, good. It's a good topic, you know. I think whenever we look at the rapture and everything that's going on right now, you have to first look at American culture, man. I don't know if anyone listening here is out of America. I don't know what your normal streamers look like.
There's a couple of people who are outside of America who listen to these. I've had a couple people from Australia, New Zealand who've listened to these before. So I'm happy they have. I think it's a cool thing. So this can kind of range from anybody. So it's welcome to anyone.
Well,
primarily American though.
Well,
I will say
the American culture, I think, is whenever something goes wrong with us, is to say that the whole world's falling apart. You know,
it's true. It's true. Media as well. So that's another thing too.
Yeah, media makes things so bad, and I'm not saying like end times couldn't happen and Jesus coming back, because I mean, this is the time and the only time. You know, I've heard from older people, you know, that they've faced a pandemic. They faced this much stuff that's happened at once. You look at our leaders that we have in front of us and the ones we're choosing. I'm not getting into politics, but everything just seems up in the air right now. No one has answers to anything. And it is a time to be scared. It is a time where people have felt like they have just lost so much. I feel like as it's gotten better where we're at in our town with COVID, things are starting loosening up. People are starting to hug again and stuff. But there was a good majority of the year where we felt alone, man.
Yeah.
And if you look at the basis of the rapture and what that could look like, it would be so much worse, I think, on who would have been taken up into heaven, the people who were left, and just the questions we would have then, you know. So I think it's really good that we are bringing up this topic of widow, and what is a widow, you know, and stuff like that. So I am interested, Ben.
Awesome, man.
Mr. Sir Derpy Creeper.
Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you're interested. I felt like, you know, it's hard to talk about this subject, especially to, like, you know, I don't have a whole lot of Christian friends, I'll be honest. I have more non-Christian friends than Christian friends, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a thing, is, you know, I don't mind what someone believes, I'll still be their friend. But it's in the aspect of, you know, I feel like, you know, you have a good standpoint on things. It's like, you know, you're not biased. Well, I mean, we're biased in a certain way, but like you're not biased in a way of like, all right, listen, this is the way I was taught. This is how it goes, and this is how it's gonna stay. You know, for the most part, anyway. For certain things, the end of the world, I think, is one of those subjects where it's like a lot of people have different ideas. For example, so I will say one thing which I thought was crazy. So last week, I won't say what, but I'll say I was watching a live stream. But and so I was watching the live stream, and somebody had posted that the end of the world was going to be in a zombie apocalypse, or something like that. And I'm serious, though. It's like, and this was a pastor saying this, that it's going to be a zombie apocalypse, and that, like, you know, the apparently if you're a Christian, your flesh won't decay in a grave, but like if you're not a Christian, when you die, you'll be risen as an undead zombie and run around and stuff like that. That was literally posted on a live stream. And this church had nothing to do with the live stream as well. Or, well, I mean, it had something to do with the live stream, but not that person posting the comment. And so when I saw that, I watched the whole video. I mean, I felt like it was crazy, and there were some good points he hit in there, but then when he started talking about that, I was just like, what? You know, it's just like, it confuses me. I don't think a zombie apocalypse is going to happen, all right? Personal opinion, because some people post these crazy things. So, like, I'll ask you as a question for this is, like, what do you think of, like, people who think of these extremes for the end of the world, but are also someone who claims to be somebody with Christ or as a Christian or something like that? Because I know there's a lot of views, especially since Christianity is like a tree, but there's so many branches on it, you don't know which ones are flimsy or which ones are strong as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is wild, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I saw that, I was like, "What?" I was like, and I talked to a pastor, and this pastor was saying, you know, about this is that, like, you know, I feel that they were thinking we're already in a tribulation thing. You know about the tribulations. It's like, you know, that's when after the rapture happens and stuff. So this person was thinking that. So there was a lot of crazy stuff with it. So if you have a comment on that, though,
I'll say something, man. I think I agree with what the pastor said. You know, there's a lot of people who think we're already in tribulation, but also it's to say none of us actually know what's going to happen. You know.
Yeah.
And one thing I heard a rabbi say one time too was he was talking about death in itself, you know, and you look at Jesus after he had risen and he came to his disciples, you know, he was talking to them and they saw him in his body and his spirit as one. Whenever he left the tomb and was risen, nothing was in that tomb, his body, nothing. He went with the same everything he was on this earth with. And that's what he showed his disciples when he came upon them, you know, and he was even like, look at the holes in my hands. This is my body. This is it. And I think whenever we die, whenever Jesus is to come, for us to live an eternal life isn't just for our spirit to be there. You know what I mean? It will be our own body and our own spirit in one.
Yeah.
And the question that comes up with that is people are like, well, what about, you know, people that got burned, you know, what's that word? Cremation.
Yeah, cremation.
But people that got cremated, you know, their body's not there. And I would just say, you know, the same God that made you, we can't put barriers around what God can do.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just what I think will happen after the rapture. You know, it's our own bodies and our own spirit will be there in heaven. I think this is what a lot of people miss. But to answer your question, I don't think there's going to be a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Okay?
I got you.
What will happen will be, I think, far much worse than a zombie apocalypse, anything we can imagine.
Yeah.
I think whenever you look at the zombie apocalypse, that's just, I mean, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know what'll happen. I do know that the day that Jesus comes back will be a day of reckoning and a day of reconciliation, because you'll have people who are seeing things happen that they don't know why. People vanish, you know, even planes that are, you know, flying, pilots could be taken from them, and boom, crash, boom, you know, all this stuff.
That'll be crazy stuff.
In the aftermath of all that, you know what I mean? I mean, you gotta look at grocery stores. You gotta look at all of our livestock that we have. You gotta look at supermarkets and how everything we have is just given to us. You go into a store, you want to buy medicine, it's right there. But after that, everyone will just come into stores and take everything. And then you'll start rationing food. You'll start looking at everything you have, and there'll be so much panic in our hearts because everything has just gone out of control like in a snap, man.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to understand is not look at rapture as something that's scary, but the Bible even says about the rapture for us to look at our hearts every day, to pray without ceasing, to understand that in every part of our life there's something to learn from where we're at, what we're doing, and the place we are, the decisions we make. You know, anything in our lives can be used for God's good. And even the rapture is not something to scare us, but for us to understand that that's a reality. That's something we glean on that they've been talking about since Jesus was alive. Jesus was saying, one day we'll be grinding at the millstone, you know, and someone will be taken. We don't grind at the millstone anymore, meaning we don't use that type of, you know, terminology. Even Jesus does not even know when the day was, because when he was talking about the rapture in his day, he used topics and things that are so foreign to us.
Yeah.
And so I think it's to understand no one knows when Jesus will come back. No one knows what it looks like, but we do know it'll be a wild day.
It's true.
In society and the world as itself, just as it was affected by Corona, it'll be affected worldwide all around, and no one will have answers. And I think the other thing to understand about the rapture is the Antichrist, you know, the one who comes after that, hasn't happened yet, because Jesus is still in this world. There's still some God in this world, you know, and once he takes all of his people with him, there's only evil left. There is,
I got you,
nothing else left but evil, man. So it'll be like a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that's true. That's some crazy stuff. You mind if I cut in for a second?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so on So you said there's going to be nothing but evil left. So I've heard people talk about tribulation saints. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's going to be still some good people? I know there's evil will definitely overcome that, but like, what about in the aspect of like, hey, are there going to be good people that are still going to try to guide people to the right place, even though that there's a lot of bad happening on the world?
I think whenever bad happens, the only thing that can come in place of it is good.
Okay.
So even though good people and all of God's people will leave, the people who are left, it's kind of like fight or flight mode. They know those people are gone, but they have been risen and they've been grown with. You look at a father and a son, the father might have lived his entire life with God, and the son was like, I'll get to it later. Once his father's gone, he realizes he has to step into that place. He has to make a move. Yeah. And even some people will come in, and the Bible even says that the ones that are left, the Antichrist will be able to tell who's a Christian and who's not. Because after something bad happens like that, it just makes you understand what's actually true and what's not. Because God is, it says that Christians are all like-minded, and we are all just one mind. We all think the same. We all understand that even if you're not a Christian, you can understand that following God is just about being wise, making good decisions. You look at the commandments of don't commit adultery, don't look at other gods, don't, you just look at everything that God is and you understand that it's just good. There's
a lot of good in it. Yeah.
A lot of good. You can understand that evil is evil and righteous is righteous, even if you're not a Christian. So to go after God's commandments, to go after what He is just good. So I think that even after the rapture, and even after after all the good people are gone, the people that are left, it'll be either stand up for God or take the mark. That talks about the mark of the beast. And that'll be the only way to survive. So the only people who will be able to have Christ are the ones that are willing to die for it.
That's true. So it'll be a lot harder too as well.
Yeah, it'll be extremely hard. It'll be just like it was whenever in the New Testament. You look in the book of Acts, when all the disciples who were with Jesus, they're proclaiming God's name, and there's people who are like, we will kill you for that. And they eventually did die for it, Yeah. Persecution is real. It happens in other countries, man, all over.
It's true. Especially from things like ISIS and stuff like that.
Dude.
Yeah.
So. There's no telling what'll be after the rapture, man. Yeah. But I just don't see it happening right now. I still think there still has to be more that has to come into play,
Well, yeah, I got you.
It says also, I think, if you look in Revelations, just about the harvest that comes before Jesus comes back. I feel like when Jesus comes back and what that looks like, there's got to be something that happens, man. More than Corona. More than what's happened now. More than the earthquakes and the fires, I think you look at Israel, like that is His place. And if Israel right now is good, everything is all right. I feel like that's just God's main concern is Israel. Not saying He doesn't care about the rest of the world because He made it too, but I don't know, man. When you talk about rapture, you start talking about just the future and prophecy, and if you want to know more about it, look in Revelations. Look in Isaiah. Look at all the prophets who came before who talked about Isaac, Read the Bible for yourself. Look at it, because that's where you'll find your true evidence, what's true and what's not. I can only say what I've read, but God will put things in place for you to read what He wants you to know. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah. I started reading my Bible more, for example, and reading Proverbs has already helped me a lot too. So definitely, if you're looking for any guidance, for example, I really, I would recommend the Bible.
You have to read the Bible. If you want to follow God and you actually want to hear Him, you have to read the verses. Yeah. And I've had so many people argue with me on this too, because I've heard guys say, "Well, I don't have to read the Bible. I can just follow God's heart." But you look at the Bible. People died for this to be able to be real. People spent time writing it. People put their heart and soul into this over time since creation has started. So, I mean, you could say that you shouldn't read the Bible. You don't have to, but you can't say that there's not wisdom in this book.
Yeah, exactly.
That there's not truth in this book.
Yeah. It's kind of like the concept where I mentioned about about a car jack. You don't need a car jack to put a car up, but like it helps a heck ton rather than you just doing it yourself. And so like I used to be a lot like that actually, especially back time when we talked. I didn't read the Bible a whole lot, and reading it more and more, it's kind of helped push my heart out a lot more. And not only that, me reading it more and more, I've had a lot of blessings that just go boof, that come out of nowhere. And it's I'll talk about those in a little bit though, because they're a tad bit off subject, but like it's still on subject. But I will say like once I feel like once I started applying it into my heart, that's when stuff started to change more and more. Things were changing sure beforehand, but like drastic and bigger changes that I noticed that like eye-opened me came through like that. So it's like, and it's when I started reading the Bible. It's kind of like saying, well, I've been lifting cars for years with my own arms, but now I finally decided to put a jack under it, and it just felt like amazing. So it's just the same concept, man. That's what I feel like it is.
Yeah, dude. I would say, I'd go as bold to say that you can't even, I don't feel like you can be a Christian without even reading the Bible. I don't read this book enough either, man. But this is where you find truth. This is where you find everything, man.
I like the acronym for it, the basic instructions before leaving Earth kind of the thing, where it's like, this is where you need to find out, like, here's the thing is that, you can't always be in your own mind and think you're right all the time, That's where the Bible, I feel like, comes in and says, hey, listen, what you're doing is probably wrong. So, like, especially with Proverbs was like, it's like, it's like gut wrenching, a stab in the heart. It's like, ooh, yeah, I kind of do that. I need to not do that. So.
Not just Proverbs. If you look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first 4 books of the New Testament, the Gospel, these are the books where Jesus was alive with us. Mm-hmm. This is the only part in the Bible where Jesus was among us. Jesus was teaching. And I feel like we have to read this every single day, at least, some part of the gospel. Because this is where truth is. This is where you find Jesus' heart. It's where you find where Jesus said, God's son, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is, the New Testament's good. You look at Proverbs, it's good. You look at Psalms. I say Proverbs is a book for Saturday. Psalms is a book for Sunday.
I got you. That makes sense.
I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Sabbath, when you're gleaning in from God, focus on Proverbs. That's what God is. On Sunday, it's a day of victory. You're screaming and not screaming. You're just
straight up yelling.
However you worship God. But Psalms really is a book for Sunday. It's where David is just playing his heart out, man. And really, that's just what we have to do: is fall on our knees. Just cry out to God, man. That's how you find the Spirit. That's how you find it is. It's complete humbleness. What Jesus says. Humble yourselves and to be like children, to look at a child's heart.
Yeah.
And that's how we have to be, And I don't know, man. I hope that answers your question.
Well, about the zombie apocalypse? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Zombies. Yeah.
But yeah, I know. A lot of people got some crazy ideas. It's true,
man.
There was, I will say too, is that like, it's not a forceful thing. Listen, we're not trying to force our belief on other people. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the thing I feel like I need to express there is too, is because someone may get the wrong idea. It's like, we're just we're just 2 Christians talking about what we feel is like the thing we need to talk about.
When we get into a topic about widow, I talk to people who aren't Christians all the time, and I'm not saying I blame them.
Yeah, I don't.
Grasping onto God and understanding there's a guy. Either the world is all eternal, or there's someone who made the world that is all eternal. And you look at creation, it's such a broad thing, but you have to understand that we don't have to have the answers for everything. God made this world, and if you ever doubt God, it's really a personal thing. And the reason a lot of people don't glean into God is just because we're talking about widow, I don't mean to change the whole topic.
No, you're good. I mean? Listen, if it's on your heart, go for it, man.
You talk about widow. Let's talk about what a widow is, right? In the Hebrew word, widow means almana. Almana. Almana.
All right, I got you. I've never heard of it before.
It says it does not simply denote a woman whose husband is dead, but rather a once married woman who has no means of financial support and is therefore in need of special legal protection. So you look at the word widow. What does it mean? And I think it's someone who has just been through it, man. Who's just been hurt, who's been through trials, and you just need help. You know, even if you cry out for it, even if you don't, you just want help. You want someone to be there. And the perfect example of a widow, Job, man. Job, if you read the Old Testament and look at Job, this dude went through it, man. Even though he lost everything, he never lost his wife. That's pretty interesting.
Oh, that's a good bit.
So he's not technically the definition of a widow, but this is a man who the devil came before God and brought up the accusation of Job. And he said, this man only follows you because you give him much. You know, you've given him, but if you take it away, he won't. And God said, I bet you, man. Pretty much in my own terms.
Yeah.
He said, he won't come away from me even if I take everything from him. So he took everything from him. Took his livestock, took his house, kids, killed him. Just
Dang, man.
all kinds of stuff. Just wiped everything from this man, and through it all, this guy still came before God, and he never went away from what God had said. He just questioned. He was like, God, why are you doing this to me? And just pleaded for his soul. And it's interesting because if you look at Job in the Hebrew and look at what it means, do you know what it means, Ben?
No.
Do you know what the word Job means?
No, I actually
Hebrew?
don't, to be honest with you.
Hated.
I didn't know that. Dang, dude.
Job was not hated by God. Job was hated by Satan just because he followed God's commandments and did what he said. So you look at our lives, and you look at even people who follow God, and you look at people who are widowed, and you look at things that happen, and you wonder, why is this happening to me? I haven't done anything to anybody. I wake up, I go to work, I do my job, I do what I'm told to do, I try and I try and I try and I keep failing, I don't understand. And I think it's to understand also that hated. The devil, no matter who you are, does not enjoy you in any single way.
I agree with that completely, yeah.
And if you glean in on the evil things of life, then you're doing exactly what Satan wants you to do. He doesn't care about you because you're doing what he wants. Satan is, the Bible puts him in the depiction of a snake. No arms, no legs, crawls around on his belly, and the biggest weapon he has is his mouth. And that's
true,
it.
man. Yeah.
And that's the words that get in our heads, It's the words that depict us. It's the words that just tear us down, our own thoughts of ourselves, the words of others destroy us. And it's such a mental game. That's what religion is.
Yeah, man. I agree with that.
Mental game. That's why you see people who commit suicide. You see people who go through so much internally because Satan, that's where he starts. He digs deep to the center of our hearts where we're rooted and snaps it. And it's so hard, man. And I'll just say, the people who have went away from God because of own personal choices, I can't say that I blame you if you don't know God. And get it more personal. Talking about being personal earlier.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me when I was 10, man. That's when my dad killed himself, and in myself, then I was like, dude, why, And I didn't really understand because I was so young, and as I grew older, I became more and more angry, because I was like, why are you not here? But it wasn't until I moved to Arizona when I graduated high school, and I saw how life hit me and how hard it was, and I was like, you know what, Dad? I get why you did it. I'm not actually mad because life is that difficult, man, and it can be. So life without God is difficult. And if you're going through it, man, and you haven't tried God, I would say that's where you'll find hope. But if you tried God and you fell out of it, the only question I'd say is why, And that's another conversation I think you'd have to have one-on-one to actually understand. But following God isn't easy either.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that, man. I know how that feels, man.
There's no easy route,
Yeah.
Giving up is hard. Like pushing on is hard. Giving up is hard, pushing on is hard. You just have to choose your heart in life,
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do? Because no matter what you decide, it's going to be hard, but at least come out for a good outcome.
Yeah, I agree with that, man.
Yeah, man. Anyways, you can ask another question if you want, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to say I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's not a fun thing to talk about, but a song I heard actually. What's the name? It was a song called "Hear That Story Too." I don't know if you've heard of that song or not.
That story too.
And it's like I think it's a song about kind of like it's a little peaceful song, but to me when I heard it, it felt like, it's like a Christian struggling with a lot of things in life, but realizing that God's gonna use that for good things. No, even if there's bad stuff, God's gonna use it for good. It's kind of like the experience you had. He's going to use that for good, and it's going to strike different people than other people, because you've experienced something firsthand that other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like a Christian sharing their story, or just someone sharing their story, but, to help other people, and God will use that to help other people out and stuff. I think his name is David. It's either David Goki, which he's pretty cool.
Oh,
but,
David Goki.
It could be him. I'm not sure. It's either him or someone that's kind of near. I think it could be. It's actually Johnny Diaz.
Johnny Diaz.
Yes.
Well, hello, Johnny.
Here's Johnny as well as from the
Johnny
Shining.
boy.
But yeah, so it's called "Hear That Story Too." It's a nice little peaceful song, but like it kind of makes me feel like it's like one of those like upbeat Christian songs though too. But to me, I feel like that's one of those things that's where like we have these things in our lives that we have to go through because God wants them to be used to help other people in a way. And I'll share a little story, kind of because I feel like it's not exactly the same thing. It wasn't a death thing necessarily, but God's kind of blessed me within certain kind of areas of my life. I will say I lost my grandfather around the age of 15.
Mm-hmm.
He was, he had lung cancer and the blood clots all over him.
Mm.
And so basically we had to see him in a hospital bed. He was on a respirator and pretty much all that. And almost any time I bring him up, man, I'm going to start bawling. I'm going to be honest with you. If I start tearing up, it's just because I'm bringing it out. But,
It's okay, man.
I will say that, like, I experienced this, and, it's like, in a way you could say, for example, my grandma or my Mima, you could say she's basically been widowed because, he had passed away.
Yeah.
And has to deal with financial things. And so, the thing is that, yes, it was something that was pretty bad that happened in my life. I mean, I had a lot of good things I cherished with him. And the thing is, though, is that, like, it was weird, but, like, one of the turning moments in my life is when that happened, is when I was sitting next to him, and they were asking if anyone can talk to him, because, like, he can listen and stuff. And, one of the coolest things, and one of the most beautiful things I thought that happened was, like, when I was talking to him, like, it felt like he could actually see me, and his eyes widened as soon as he saw me. And, like, he couldn't, like, say anything back. He was on that respirator. But he, it kind of felt like, he was like, he saw me and he wanted to say something, but probably couldn't.
Yeah.
And, but, like, I told him I loved him, and then later that day, it was either that day or within the next day, he ended up passing away. And so, like, to me, like, yes, it was a terrible thing that happened within my family, for example, but, like, that closure right there was a thing that was kind of like a beautiful thing in a way. And I don't know how to explain it. And it's like another thing I would like to bring up too, is kind of like, like within this week that I was going to bring up is that, I had an ex for about 2 years ago, I think. We had broken up about 2 years ago. It was like an online ex, but she's pretty cool. I'm not going to say her name or anything, but
It's respectful.
if she is listening to this somewhere in the future, I will say that, what do you call it? I appreciate you a lot. All right, you're awesome and majestic. All right, but she had to cut ties with me this week, and so that was
This
a little
week?
rough. Yeah, this week, literal week. Okay, well, it's like not like like Monday through Saturday this week. Yeah. All right, so it was that basically I had to have ties cut with me, and I was like, all right. It's like my first thought was, all right, she's about to do something crazy. I don't know, because like she didn't explain anything, and I was like, bro, something dark's about to happen. I don't want that, and that's what I was more worried about. I was like her self-good. And then so a little bit later I found out, I was like, oh, it's because of that of respect for her relationship. And I was like, that's okay, I get that. And so it was not only that, but she had problems where she had ended up drinking too much, possibly. I'm not going to go into detail, but she had a lot of problems, and she realized she needed to fix herself. And I couldn't have been more happy that she had that realization. I wasn't happy with the stuff that she went through, no, but a thing that when I was talking to her, though, it was, I told her, don't look at yourself as a bad person, just a person who's a work in progress. And that kind of thing, I had a bad relationship with her prior, and it was good, and there was a lot of good in there too, but there was still some bad that wasn't good for me within that. And it was crazy to me because I felt like at that point it was something different. God had taken something like kind of bad and turned into something greater to push in the right direction. So it's like, I felt like I was kind of that final push that said, hey, listen, the path you're going on is a good path, and I support you fully. I know we're not going to be talking anymore, and that's fine. I get that. But I'm going to still be praying for you and supporting you on that side. And a thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is like, especially when I started reading the Bible more, I have prayed to God, always give me a surprise. You know what I mean? And he has pretty much delivered at that point every time he's done it. This time he just did it real big this week. But it was crazy because like when that happened, I felt like, man, it's an unexplainable thing of like, two people who didn't work out really well. We had a lot of problems at some point. I was able to forgive. She was able to forgive the way I acted, the way she acted, and turn it into a friendship. But then not only that, to be able to divide, but have a great divide and like a great closure. And I was telling my friend this. I say, God works like a map. We look at a map and it's like it looks all intricate and we see the front of it. But secretly, God was using invisible ink on it the entire time. And once it's all over, he flips on a black light and shows you what it actually is and all the things going around into it. And, that's why I realized that this week is like, even though something bad has happened to us, God will use it to make it a beautiful thing. And to me, it did a lot of things inside my heart of like, man, you know what? I had so many problems back in the past because I had the wrong view on life as well. When it came to God, I was willing to ditch my morals, which I shouldn't have. And to be able to kind of have that closure, but to turn it into something great, we got emotional with it. That was understandable, but it was a good emotional to where it's a push in the right direction. And so that was a beautiful thing. That's also happened the same thing as like, like I mentioned to you a little bit ago about an atheist, for example, had told me that they had seen Christ in me and stuff like that. And I thought that was a beautiful thing as well. Happened all in the same day. And, that's where it's like, God delivers. All right. Now, I'm not saying that, what do you call it? Not that, maybe the atheist person believes that I'm a Christian or believes in Christ still or anything like that. That's fine. All right. It's their choice. But I will say to me that did a big number in my heart to have these things all happen in one sense of the day, And it was pretty crazy. So personally, from my example, what I'm trying to say here is that, there is a lot of bad that can happen to you, yes, but I feel like once you start looking in the right direction, putting your heart in the right direction, it may take time, You may not even see it at first, but it's used and turned into something beautiful, And I know I rambled a bit right there, but
oh, you're good, man.
That's pretty much just what like went through my heart, and it was like an unexplainable feeling. I don't know if you know how that feels when you have this unexplainable feeling. It's like, it's amazing, but amazing is an understatement, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know. To me, in my heart, it was just like boom, it was just a boom that happened. It was crazy, man. I can't explain it. So if I could explain it, I would. The best way I could explain it was the map with the black light. That's pretty much
whenever you're talking about God, some things are just unexplainable,
Yeah.
It's so surreal. It's a personal thing, That's the glory about God, He's a very personable God.
Yeah.
He created us all intricately, so he talks to us all differently and specifically. And it's so freaking wild. So, love your story, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
no one knows
it.
everybody slept that book. Sorry, I might have scared you.
You didn't scare me. I just didn't know if you were going to mess up your book or not. So I was like, all right.
This thing's tough.
Oh, that's good then. I'm glad it's tough, man.
Built Ford tough.
Oh, Ford tough. I got you, man.
It's a Bible.
All right, I got you. What do you have to say about the people who don't like Fords out there?
You know, I understand.
I'm messing with you. You don't
I
have
get it. They put their oil filters in dumb places that are hard to get to.
That's funny, dude. I have a family that doesn't like that. They're pretty Chevy fans, so I don't really mind
No.
which is what it is. But they're like, they always joke about Ford, and I'm just like, oh,
Chevy. That ain't nothing.
yeah. I hear Chevy and Ford go at it all the time. So,
Sure do, man.
but yeah, I will say that was my main thing from is, you know, even though there's a lot of bad that happens within our lives, like constantly happens to us, there's some good that's brought out of it. And I like how you mentioned that, like, it's the reason Job lost a lot of stuff was that, like, he kept going for God, but the devil's like, man, I don't like you, dude. I want you to be on my side, kind of thing. And look at me and stuff. And a thing that made me realize is that, like, you know, sometimes the devil doesn't do anything to you, and the reason is because you're already living the life he wants you to live. And so I'm like, bruh. So it's like crazy. I don't know if you've seen God's Not Dead. I think you've seen it possibly. I like one thing. I'm not the biggest fan of, like, the whole movie, but I will say, like, there's a couple things in there that are really gripping, and I like one that says, you know, sin is like a comfy little cell. The door's open or something, and you can sit there as long as you want, but one day that door slams shut. And I'm just like, man, you know, that's one of those things that's like, you know, I feel like the devil uses different tactics, you know what I mean? And that's the kind of a thing I want to, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, actually. Do you have anything more on Job? By any chance that you feel like you want to share?
Yeah. I don't think I have any more on Job. I think you just read Job.
I gotcha.
He is so much. Even in Job, you know, even when stuff happened to him, his friends and stuff were like, dude, what did you do for God to have this happen to you? And Job was like, I didn't do anything. What do you mean? They're like, you had to have done something, you know? Everyone was coming against Job like he did something, and Job didn't have answers. So confused, man. You know, but whenever he came out of it, God took everything that he lost and doubled it, you know, gave him more. So, I don't know, man. I think it's just understand the stuff we're going through. It's just a season, and it's something we have to press through, and it's hard. But
I agree.
I have this thing from a buddy that he wrote this in my Bible when I was leaving Arizona, and it is so good, man. It says, although a tree grows fast and strong, there are those times when they grow in unfortunate times. Though young, they grow fast, but when the winter comes, it is put to the test. Its roots are tested, its leaves and shelter go away. It's thirsty for water. The others who look upon it think it's dead, but my friend, that is furthest from the truth. Though it looks dead, it is surely alive. Once spring comes, it will be stronger than when it started.
Dang, I like that, man.
Dude.
That's good, man.
It's so real.
That's some good stuff. I like that because I didn't think about it like that. You know,
That's crazy.
like if it's growing in winter and stuff too, it makes it so much harder to grow. But like, you know, they can still build through and grow into a tree. It's just a hard time to grow in.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. That's pretty good.
Well, the Bible tells us we're trees all the time, too.
Yeah, like even wisdom, dude. When they talk, I found that in Proverbs actually too. So it's like, you know, wisdom is like a tree of life and stuff and all that. I like hearing about that.
Even Jesus heals a man in the gospel. I think it's in like Luke or something. You have to look at it. I have no idea. But anyways, he heals the man, and after he does, he says, what do you see? And the guy says, I just see a bunch of walking trees. Then he heals him again, and he sees people.
Dang, that's cool. I like that. I like that. It's the symbolism, man.
Yeah.
You know, I got a question on that, and
Okay.
I know that's like, I might edit this part out, but I'm curious on this part. It's
Okay.
like, do you think that, you know, sometimes God talks in symbolism, and it's like, you know, a lot of symbolism that's just like, you know, even in Bible maybe, but like, maybe he has the basic instructions, which is the Bible, yes. But what if he adds some extra symbolism inside of it, just to have like a different like world of symbolism inside of it, like an intricate thing, like you mean?
God does that, bro.
Yeah, okay. So like, I think that's a cool thing though, because it's like, you know, especially with like how he sees people that are trees, but then he sees that are people now. It's like, you know, maybe is that there's that symbolism of trees. I don't know. I'm not saying that like there could be more symbols of different things, but
Yeah.
the symbol of trees could be people, and I think that's a cool thing as well.
is.
Within that like loophole. I don't know. Like I seen a post on Facebook about like how each like scripture like kind of references itself, and it's just like high wired, all so many wired to each other. I feel like that's a lot with like life and symbolism as well.
It is, man.
There are 2 questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
I should have like asked, but hey, listen. Here's the thing. All right. If you're not in a rush, I'm happy you're not in a rush.
I'm not in a rush.
Okay. But there's 2 things that I kind of want to ask that kind of bring into light that I feel like people kind of don't understand. First is the one that I feel like other people may understand it, but the second one I feel like the thing that I didn't that I don't think has been talked about really. Okay. The first one I want to talk about is the proverb we talked about.
Okay.
So basically, it's Proverbs 11. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. So it's Proverbs 14:11. Yeah. So 14:11 then there's other proverbs that have the similar thing of it. Do you think that kind of applies to the world? You know what I mean? It's like the rapture, all that stuff going on. But do you think that kind of applies to the world? Because like eventually, would the world be the house of the wicked?
The world is essentially the house of the wicked.
Yes.
If you look at it that way, I think
Okay.
if you look at it when it says the house of the wicked will be destroyed. So you look in the first verse, it's not saying that it is destroyed, that it's decaying. It's saying that it will be destroyed. It's interesting that it says the house, but it also says for the righteous, the tent of the upright will flourish. So let's look back into what house means. So it's saying a structure, right? As in a place with a foundation, with walls and a roof. Like this is where you reside under. This is where the wicked have been. This is where they live. And it's saying that in this place, the house of the wicked will be destroyed. It's saying that no matter where you find your refuge, if you're wicked, what are you finding your refuge in? Like, if you are upset at everybody all the time and you have anguish and you have a temper, that's where you find and where you reside in is in that anger, That's where you find your peace at. Peace.
Quotations. Yeah, I got you, man.
You look at someone who's on drugs, that's where they find their refuge and their escapes in the drugs. When you find someone who is perverted, and even says, just a lot of crude jokes or even bullying other people or making fun of others, that's where they find their refuge. That's when it says the house of the wicked. I think it's depicting like wherever you find your house in, wherever you find that refuge, it will be destroyed.
I got you.
But it says the tent of the upright will flourish. So I think it's saying if you look at a tent, it's nothing like a house. If a tree falls over on your tent, you're dead.
Yeah, that
And it
tent's
has
going
a zipper.
That's its own defense is the zipper, man.
That's it, man. And I think whenever you look at God's people, it's not like we have these huge walls that are up. Even if you look at the tent of meeting where Moses had, if you look in the Old Testament, the tabernacle was a tent. That's where Moses went in to find God and talk to God, was in a tent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's to say that as a Christian, we don't have to have huge walls. We don't have to have all this stuff because we know who protects us. We know where we are. We are almost see-through, like paper thin, And that's what it's saying here. And it's saying that will not only remain upright, but it will flourish. Not going anywhere, man. So that's what that means. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think that could possibly be applied to like the rapture in some sort of way?
That's it. I think that's exactly what it's speaking to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I looked at that and I was thinking, okay, this could be applied to a rapture. Because I feel like, if someone leaves a household that's a Christian, for example, they're the main thing I think that's keeping that household alive. Not alive in a bad way, but like from the wicked or anything bad happening to it. Yeah. If that person were to leave, stuff would crumble, wouldn't it? Or at least in a certain way. If the others don't change their ways, is what that is.
That's what it's saying. It's saying the house of the wicked will be destroyed. You can put it in the aspect of rapture. You can put it in the aspect of death. I mean, we could die at any moment. You're going to meet God. You're going to be judged.
That's
you
the scary stuff, man.
You're going to fall, son.
Yeah.
And I think the other interesting thing is if you talk to people who don't follow God and you ask them why, they'll tell you, they have these walls of like, oh, well, I went through this, my parents died or grandmother died or my girlfriend broke up with me. And they have these walls that they put up, but they don't have a roof. They don't actually know why they believe that. They just believe it. They don't have a true protection over them like a roof, Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I think it's important just to understand, I think if you look at a tent, it's the bottom and the walls come in, they make the tent, in a house, there's walls and then the roof,
Yeah.
I think it's just when you look at a tent and you look at how it's made, we don't have to have a huge structure and have these huge walls that we just build and everything. We find our protection in God. Just a tent, bro. That's all we need.
I got you.
That's all we have to have. And that's where you find your heart. You humble yourself. Put yourself in a tent. Make that where your heart is around as a tent. Put yourself in that and you'll flourish, man. You don't have to build a huge house, It'll just be destroyed.
That's true.
Yeah.
I got you. I feel like that's a cool thing too. Is like, if you're building a house, it's harder to get through, but if you're a tent, you can get through it, and you can, it's like it's a flimsy wall between you and God.
Yeah.
And so like when you've got a house that's constructed, that's harder to get through.
Very
And
much
so because you have that roof overhead. And also a thing I thought about as a tent is like, the way to heaven's very narrow actually, believe it or not. The tent roof is narrow. It's not like flat at the top where it's like wide. It's straight up a point for the most part.
Straight up.
So it's like, yeah, it's a straight up line, man.
Straight up, bro.
One of my friends told me it's like, the way to heaven's so narrow, but everyone thinks it's so wide. You know what I mean? I will say one more thing that's like on the subject of rapture. The thing I thought about yesterday, actually. I've thought about this recently. It's like, if let's say a rapture, the end of the world's coming up soon. All right, maybe not now, but in a different scenario. Do you think? I feel like the enemy, the devil, would try extremely hard to put you in a trap right before it happens, so that you stay further. You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like that's a thing that might happen? For example, they'll use a situation that maybe is close to you, or he'll conjure up something that's close to you to try to pull you back from God at that last second so he can keep you on earth longer.
I think that's something you had to put into account, because whether or not he would do it before the rapture, we don't know when the rapture would happen, and we know that the devil does that already.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay,
I
got
say
you.
that.
All right. Do you think the devil would... Okay, this is just a thought.
Okay.
But do you think he would know when the rapture is? You know what I mean? Or is it just God only? That
God
knows?
is
God and
the
Jesus.
only knowing person who would know
Okay.
when the rapture is. But you look at where we could go back to Job, where devil talks to God and presents the idea that Job doesn't actually love God. He just loves the things that he has, so he puts temptation. And pretty much God makes it okay for Satan to go after Job. And if God is all-powerful and all-knowing, then the devil can't do anything without God letting him do it, because we learned that in Job. So I think that in whatever happens in our life, if you take off the idea of the rapture, but instead put in the idea that God will allow things to happen to us to try to pull us back, it's a test. You take that in as someone dies. You take that in as you lose something of value, that goes back to the idea we're talking about widowed, because it's a real emotion, it's a real thing, and it's something that all of us could face. And so I think what we have to do is be like Peter, and keep our eyes on God, especially whenever we talk about in the Gospels where Peter's getting out of the boat, and he's going to walk on the water. And God says, keep your eyes on me. And there's a storm around him, and he's walking on the water, takes his eyes off, and he sinks down. He falls. And I think it's to understand that even through storms, wherever we're at, we can walk on the water. And too many times I feel like we get stuck in some place, and we can see somewhere else we know we need to go. And we start building a huge boat
making a raft so we can float across the water and doing all this work. In reality, God just wanted us to walk on the water there. We just put so much into our own thoughts of saying that things that we know we have to do. When in reality, the freedom comes in not following agenda, but living after our own purpose. And that's...
I gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all the questions I had mainly for it. I will ask, though, what's your main takeaway from what we talked about, though? Like, with the rapture, stuff like that, how we mentioned.
I think I'd say to take out of it is, one, don't get caught up with the rapture first. That's something that I'm hearing a lot of people do right now. And the rapture's there. I mean, it's real. The Bible brings it up in different places. But it's not to be in fear, but to understand that, I mean, anything can happen at any moment. Even death is inevitable, So I think what we have to do is just follow God, look at His commandments, look at who He is, and just follow after wisdom. And if you're not, then, I mean, the inevitable is just that either death, the rapture will come, and then our lives will just be full of regret whenever that happens of something we didn't do. So I think it's important just to do what you know is right and keep on with it. And if you have unanswered questions, you pray to God, and I just will continue to pray. Following God's not easy, but it's a lot easier when you're not living in evil. Just having the Spirit is so true too. That'd be my takeaway, man. Gleaning on God and the Spirit.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Enjoy it every time we do these.
Awesome, man.
Sayonara. Hasta mañana.
Heck yeah, man.
See you tomorrow.
All right, dude.
Buenos dias in... Ooh. Goodbye.
All right, man. All right, dude.
Thank you for your time and attention.
No problem, man. Thank you for the good talks today. I apprate it, dude. I seriously mean it. It was fun. All right.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there was some growth into it. I grew a lot from just talking about it. I like your wisdom. All right. Your wisdom is fire. All right.
Thank you, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man.
Do you want to do the little outro?
How do you do an outro?
I mean, you can either, do you want to say my slogan, or you just want to say your own outro, or like, do you have any information that you want to have other people? I already put your Facebook link if you want to do Facebook there, but
other than that, no.
Okay. I got you.
Hit me up. You got any questions, any comments, anything you want answered, any thing you didn't like, anything that you're just wondering. I'm free for questions. Don't feel like you can't, because you can.
But yeah, if y'all have any feedback, please let any of us know, man. All right, or woman. All right.
Yeah.
But it would be really cool. Yeah. All
yeah.
right. I hope this was able to make you a whiz out of making wise decisions and to steam them up to make them even better.
Yeah. And a joke to let you go. I think I already told you this joke. What did Spider-Man's aunt say when he got done driving the car? Peter Parker.
Oh man, dude, that's gonna be something. I'll keep it there for you.
Hey, but how do you crack open an egg?
How?
An axe.
What?
You have to hatch it.
Okay. I got you. I was like, what the crud? I was like, yeah, I mean, that's one way to hack open an egg. All right.
Well, good, man. Thanks, guys.
So I hope you all enjoyed that segment. Ethan was awesome, and Ethan was really cool to have on here. He has a lot of wisdom to share, and I'm glad that he talked about the things he talked about. Seriously, I think it's awesome. If you guys would like to talk to Ethan at all, I'll leave a link to his Facebook. He's perfectly open with talking to people. You might want to send him a message first or something like that, just so he knows that, like, you know, you came from where like from here, so he'll know. Just say, you know, hey, listen, I came from a WhizDum Wednesday, homie. Your freaking segment was awesome. You know, if you want to contact him, I'll leave his Facebook link in the description of YouTube. Yeah, that's pretty much where it's gonna be at, unless you want to see in SoundCloud as well. On SoundCloud, it'll probably be in the description as well. But I want to say thank you to Ethan for coming on here. It was very good. And if you want to talk to me or give me any feedback, I've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They're all Sir Derpy Creeper. Come check them out. They're pretty cool. I post content on them pretty regularly. And if you want like a fast reaction, go for Instagram or Twitter for right now. I'm still working with Facebook, so it's going to be a little bit, but I would appreciate you checking them out. We're also on Twitter and well, I already said Twitter. Never mind. We're also on Spotify and SoundCloud as well. So those should be up to date just as much as YouTube and Twitch are. And speaking of YouTube and Twitch, YouTube is my most currently updated version of WhizDum Wednesday, which is now next to SoundCloud and Spotify. If you want the most likely to be up that day, go check out YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is pretty fire. I post other content like highlights, sometimes Twitch highlights. I post them on there as well. Any kind of contact I'm good with as well. And the main thing I would love for anyone to check out is the live version of this, when I post the live video and then I show it live and then we talk about it afterwards if someone wants to talk about it. And that's what I treasure the most, is that, you know, having that live interaction. So if you want to talk to me live, please come talk to me live. I think that'll be a great thing to do, and it'd be awesome to do. So anyway, I hope this was able to make you a whiz out of making wise decisions and to steam them up to make them even better. Have a great rest of the week, and have a good happy Halloween, by the way. I hope you have a great Majestic year with Halloween. Get some Majestic candy. Don't die, all right? Don't eat so much candy your stomach becomes the flu, all right? Listen, there's some crazy stuff out there, homies. You got to calm down. Don't eat too much candy, all right? But hopefully you have fun. You just have fun. Listen, just don't get in trouble. Have some great fun. Prepare for Christmas, homies, because Christmas is right around the corner. Get some presents quick before they go away. Go, hurry! All right, y'all have a good rest of the week. Love y'all, guys. Have a great rest of the week.